Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Temitope. In today's tutorial, I'll be using this fabric for the Milkmaid top. I have 1 yard here. Kindly like this video and subscribe to my channel. So let's get started. So the first thing I'll be deciding is to determine how low I want my neckline to be. So in this case, I want my neckline to be 6 inches low. So I'm going to be putting my tape at the 6 inches mark. So you can make yours about 7 inches low or more, depending on how low you want your neckline to be or how much cleavage you want to show. So I'll be putting my tape at the 6 inches mark, and I'll be marking other vertical measurements. So I've marked my bust point. This is my under bust, and then my waist length. Then I'm going to be marking the blouse length. So the blouse length, I'm making it 19 inches. So I'm going to be drawing a straight line across all these points. So this is the bust point, the under bust, the waistline, and the blouse length. So what I'll be determining next is my armhole depth. So I'm going to be putting my tape at the 6 inches mark, and then I'm going to be dividing my bust measurements by 6, and I'll be adding 1.5 inch. So this gives me 7.25. So I've marked that here. Then I'm going to draw a straight line across it, and so this will serve as my chest line. My chest line, my bust points, my under bust, waistline, and blouse length. So now what we're doing is the shoulder measurement to determine the neck width. So I'm going to be using my shoulder measurements for this. So I'm going to be dividing by 2, and that's giving me 7.25. So I'm going to mark it there, and then I'm going to be coming in by 1 inch. So that means I'll be subtracting 1 inch from what I marked there. So I'm going to mark it. And then on my chest line, I'm going to be measuring my bust measurement. So I'm going to divide my bust measurements by 4 and then mark it there. And so now I'm going to be connecting from my neck width to the chest line there as my armhole. So I'm going to be using my curve rule to connect these 2 points, and this will serve as my armhole. So what we're doing next is to impute my dart. And I'm going to be using my bust span measurement. So I'm going to divide my bust span measurement, that's nipple to nipple measurement, by 2. So mine is 6 inches, divided by 2, that's 3 inches. I'll be marking it on my waistline. I'll also be marking it on my blouse length line, and then on the under bust line. And then I'm going to be connecting the 3 points with a straight line. So on the waistline, I'm going to be using half of an inch on both sides as the dart allowance, and I'm also going to mark the same thing on the blouse length line too. Then I'll be connecting this line to the under bust line, but first of all I'm going to connect a straight line from the waistline to the blouse length line, and then I'm going to be connecting from the waistline to the under bust line, just like this. So I already took my bust measurement on the chest line. So now I'm going to be taking our under bust measurement. So I'm going to be dividing my under bust measurements by 4 and mark it there. And the waist measurement on the waistline, I'm going to be dividing my waist measurement by 4. I'm going to mark it. Then I'm going to measure the allowance for that there. And I'm also going to be placing it back here. I'll be doing the same thing to the blouse length line. I'm going to be using the waist measurement. I'm going to divide it by 4. I'm going to mark it there, and then I'm going to measure the space for the dart, and I'll also be placing it back. Then I'm going to be adding 1 inch allowance extra to the it. This is because this part is wider than my waistline. So this blouse length is going to be around the navel. So using the hip measurement will be too big for it. So you can decide to measure your client's waist around the navel, but I didn't measure this, so that is why I'm adding this extra 1 inch allowance. So I'm just going to go ahead now to connect all the points together. So now my under bust line, I'm going to be coming up by 1.5 inch. So I'm going to mark it there, Then I'm going to take my curve rule and make a curve to the dart line points, just like you see me do here. Then on my chest line, I'm going to be measuring 2 inches from there, just like I am doing now. I'm going to be measuring 2 inches, then I'm going to mark it. Then I'm going to be connecting that 2 inches with a curve to meet the previous curve. So I'm going to be doing this with my curve rule, just like I am doing. So I'm going to curve it this way. Then I'm going to be extending that place upward from the chest. I'm going to be extending it to the neckline. So on the lower part, I've not added any allowance to this blouse, so I want to add some allowance to it. So I'm going to be adding 1.5 inch seam allowance to it. So I'm going to be marking that on all the points, and then I'm going to be connecting with my ruler. And so on this lower part, the blouse is a bit curvy on the side. It's not just a straight blouse, so I'm going to make that part, the lower part, curvy. So to do this, on the lower part, I'm going to be coming up by 1.5 inch here. Then I'm going to mark it there. Then I'm going to be connecting to that area, but I'll be coming up there by 0.5 inch. And then I'm going to be connecting that point to the other point on the dart line with a curve. Then on the other side of the dart, I'm going to be coming up by 0.5 inch too. The idea is so that by the time I'm joining the two together, the line will align. Then I'm going to be connecting from that 0.5 inch to the lowest line there at the front part, just like I am doing here. So then I'm going to be extending this one to the seam allowance area with a straight curve, with a straight line. So now I'm going to go ahead to cut out the top. So I'm going to be placing the back pattern. I'm going to be cutting the back pattern with this front pattern. So I'm going to be placing this on a pattern paper now. So here I added seam allowance, zip allowance to the back side. I'm not supposed to do this because the back is going to be unfold, because this milkmaid top is like a shirt top. So I'm going to cut out the zip allowance before cutting on my fabric. So now I'm going to be marking the points for the darts on the back pattern before removing the front pattern. So now I've removed that, so I'm just going to connect the 3 points now with a line. So I'm going to be starting with the middle line first, and the dart will be extending up to the neckline. And so I'm going to be connecting the other two, and I'm going to be connecting it like this towards the center line. You can see the way I connected this, so I'm going to connect it upward. And now you can see the side that the front side is curvy, so the back side is going to, the back pattern is going to start from that curvy part, so it's going to take the length of the side. So that's why I'm cutting out the other excess length, and then I'm going to go ahead to cut the rest of the pattern. So you can take note of where I'm cutting in this front pattern. You can see I'm cutting around the curve. So now this curve here, I'm going to be working on it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be measuring my tape, and then I'm going to be measuring 1 inch allowance on it. So I'm placing my tape like this. So I'm going to be putting 1 inch space between them. So I marked 1 inch, 2 inch, 3, 4 to 6 inches. So I'm just going to draw a straight line across this 1 inch interval. So I'm going to label it this way: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that I can easily locate. We will not mix it up. And so I'm going to go ahead to cut it and separate it. So I'm going to be placing it on another pattern paper. You can see this is a straight pattern paper. So I'm going to be arranging it one after the other according to their number. So I have to pin it down so as to enable it to stay without moving, without shifting. So I'm going to be putting an allowance of 1.5 inch before fixing the next pattern. You can see what I'm doing. Like I have 6 patterns here. So I'm going to be leaving a spacing of 1.5 inch on each before placing the next. So you can decide to put 2 inches spacing, because this will determine how wide your new pattern would be, and that would help to pleat it. You can have more pleats when you put 2 inches, but for me I want to use 1.5 inch, but it will be too small if you decide to use 1 inch, so it's okay to use 1.5 to 2 inches. So now I'm going to be tracing this new pattern with my pencil. You can see what I'm doing. The idea is to have enough space, enough fabric to pleat or to gather for the milkmaid part, for the cup part. So I'm going to be tracing with my pencil before I use my marker to trace it out. So now I'm going to be using my marker to trace it all around. Then I'm going to be cutting it out. So this is what I'll be placing on a fabric and cutting out from my fabric. So this is the front pattern. I've gone ahead to put allowance on it. You can see the front pattern is not on fold. I open it up at the front because it's a top that is in form of a shirt. It's going to have an opening at the front like a shirt. So I've added allowance on the other side, but it's only on the side that I did not have allowance because I already added 1.5 seam allowance. So remember that I said I was going to cut away this zip allowance because it's not needed at the back. So this is the back pattern. I'm cutting off the zip allowance. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this on my fabric. So I've gone ahead to do this, and I've added the same allowance to the dart area, and this is the milkmaid area, the cup part. I've also added some allowance. So this is the front. I've gone ahead to add my lining. I'm going to be ironing and interfacing on the fabric, but I will not be ironing on the lining. But if your lining is not thick, so you can also go ahead to iron and interfacing on it. But here I have a thick lining, so I'll be uploading the sewing tutorial, so I'm going to be showing you